Colonel Brendan Doherty, the former superintendent of the Rhode Island State Police, the challenger, and Congressman David Cicilline. Colonel Brendan Doherty joins us now. Colonel Doherty, good morning.
Good morning, Helen. How are you?
I'm very tired. I was up very late last night watching your debate and then watching the presidential debate. Let me just ask you, we used to call it in the military hot wash, the aftermath. How would you score your performance last night? How do you think you did?
Well, personally, I think I did very well. I haven't had an opportunity to watch it myself yet because we were watching the presidential debate. But I'd give myself an A, Helen.
Well, I thought you did very well. I thought you obviously, and the constructive criticism, take it or leave it. Yep. I don't think this is your preferred venue. I don't think you're a debater. I think you're one of those guys that, when I want to call somebody in and I want facts, you'll give me facts, but you're not really interested in doing the whole tap dance political thing. Am I right or wrong?
There were a few questions I wanted to ask the congressman, and that forum, it just wasn't the place for it. Right. I wanted to call him on a few things, but that wasn't the right forum for it. It was more of a question and answer period, and you had an opportunity to, if they allowed you to respond to, that I could have responded to the congressman's comments. So it was, I thought overall it was a good night. I thought I was able to make my points and how to bring America forward. And we this is a failed ideology, what we've seen for the last 4 years. And Congressman Cicilline continues to support that, and he continues to support high taxes. And I talked about his oppressive budget, what he calls the progressive budget, but I call it the oppressive budget because it raises taxes 45, 46, 47, 48, 49%. That'll kill small businesses. And then also, by the way, that progressive budget reduces the U.S. Navy fleet. Now, I don't know what he was thinking about with that, but I reminded him last night that we have 16,000 jobs in Aquidneck Island.
Yeah, I thought that was a good point.
The defense industry.
Yeah, that was a very good point. I'll tell you what, Aquidneck Island was decimated when the Navy pulled out in 1972 when they did a little bit of a base realignment. That will be nothing compared to serious cuts in defense for the defense industry in that area on the entire East Bay, though. And that was I thought it was a good point, those 16,000 jobs that could be in effect. And I didn't hear David Cicilline effectively have a comeback to that one.
No, he never has a comeback when I talk to him about the left-leaning, extreme left-leaning oppressive budget. So, I made my point that he's not your father's Democrat. He's not your grandfather's Democrat. So there are Democrats out there that have struggled a little bit coming over, but I think that they're getting a clearer picture now that he's really not a Democrat. He's in his own movement. Look at that budget that I'm talking about. 77 Democrats voted for it. 108 Democrats voted against it, including former Speaker Pelosi. So he's far left of the rest of them.
Well, that's frightening. And I think you said last night that even Jim Langevin, Congressional District 2, voted against it.
Yes.
Yeah. But you kept citing last night Simpson Bowles, Simpson Bowles, Simpson Bowles. And I know that you just recently met with both of them. I believe they endorsed you, did they?
Well, they issued a letter asking Rhode Island to support me. It's not really an endorsement, but maybe a difference without a distinction. Distinction without a difference. But I had a great conversation with Alan Simpson and Erskine Bowles. It's a bipartisan commission that came up with ideas for comprehensive tax reform, and to look at our tax expenditures and loopholes, and to bring the marginal rates down to 28, 22, and 12, but also to cut the tax expenditures for some of the very wealthiest that throughout the years were able to have these loopholes carved in for them. And really, that isn't fair in my view, that we have people who have these special write-offs. So I make the comparison that our tax code is like a maze. It's people bumping into mirrors and walls, walking into a maze, but some of the very wealthiest or some of the large corporations, they get a map to the maze. And where do they get that map? From Congress.
And it's interesting. I know you bring up Simpson Bowles a lot, and I'm glad because one of my notes here was to ask you to explain that, because a lot of people are not going to understand. If they're not really locked into the politics and the wording of all of this, they may not understand Simpson Bowles. You just effectively explained that, so I thank you for that.
I'll give you one more example of it, like the carried interest. No, carried interest when fund managers are given a share of a fund for their management services. Well, they're paying it 15%. This speaks to the political ploy that David Cicilline supports, the Warren Buffett rule. Well, the message was out there that Warren Buffett paid less money in taxes than his secretary. That's not true. He paid a lesser percentage than his secretary. And he paid it 15%. So that carried interest is they pay it 15%, and that should be taxed as earned income.
You're running in a very Democratic district, but that has been held by Republicans before. You need to sort of, and I know one of your taglines is, "I'm my own man." Last night you compared yourself with Scott Brown, and you pointed out that Scott Brown, he's his own man. He votes 60% of the time with his party, compared to David Cicilline, who I believe is about a 96% rubber stamp for the Democrat Party. Right. So if people really do want to break the gridlock in Congress, you made a good point with, your plea to have you sent there.
Yeah, we just need people that can sit down and find common sense solutions to problems. Now, that doesn't mean you abandon your guiding principles, but
right.
We just need people that can at least have that conversation. And David Cicilline talks about starting the, what's he call it? The
Made in America block grant?
No, that's just picking winners and losers.
I know.
The Common Cause Caucus. Well, I've talked to some people that have attended that. That's a social event. That's like going to breakfast and going out for a drink later at night. That's not sitting down at the table to work together in a bipartisan way. That's a bowling league or a badminton league that he's involved in. So I want to go to Washington to sit down with people of all walks of life, all parties, to be able to bring America forward. I'll give you an example. President Clinton, President Obama, and Governor Romney all agree that we should bring our corporate tax rate down. We have the highest corporate tax rate of all industrialized nations. If that's what we do for our American companies, we shouldn't be. We should bring that tax code down, that tax rate down. And they all agree to it. So why haven't we been able to effectuate that? For the last 2 years, they've been talking about it. We're in slow motion. We need to work together to bring America forward, to grow jobs. And if we're able to do that, just that one thing, to bring the tax code down, help repatriate and bring our monies over, that's another thing from the progressive budget. David Cicilline wants to tax multinational companies overseas and have the money shipped over after they're paying their taxes in that country. So if you paid 19% in Poland or 12% in Ireland, he wants to hit them with another 35% to ship that back. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's a business killer.
They just move over there and stay there.
We're talking with Colonel Brendan Doherty, candidate in the 1st District for Congress. You left the door wide open last night, Colonel Doherty, because you basically said that if David Cicilline would apologize to the people of Providence when he said that the financial situation was excellent and stonewalled the auditors that were trying to prove differently, you said you wouldn't bring up the topic again if he would effectively apologize. You left the door wide open there. What if he had all of a sudden said, "Okay, I'm sorry"? Would you have then stopped talking about the situation in Providence?
Well, I'd have to stick to my word. Honesty,
you took a chance.
Policy. So I said that I'd never talk about it again if you just apologize to the people and admit that it was a lie.
Yeah, but you were pretty secure that he wasn't going to do that.
It's not just saying the city was in excellent financial condition. It's what he did to get there. What did he do? He closed the auditors out from doing their job, so no one could report the fact that the city is actually in financial doldrums. We're close to bankruptcy. But who revealed that? I got to give him credit. Is Mayor Tavares said that it was a Category 5 hurricane. We're in a black hole.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in leave your whatever you do in life, leave your station in better shape than you found it. And look at the condition he left his in. He left Mayor Tavares with a $110 million credit card.
Yeah, so in the military, we used to call it the pass down. If you give your pass down to the next guy coming in, and right. If you leave him a mess and you don't give him a correct brief in that pass down, that you haven't done anything for the overall mission. And so I think you make a very good point there. Before I let you go, I thought one of your strongest points last night, you had a couple here that I highlighted that I thought you did a great job right in the beginning there when you just went over it, when he locked out the auditors and basically you used that husband and wife analogy. analogy here of, the wife trying to pay the bills and the husband forgetting to tell her that he drained the bank account. Thought that was a good one. The other one, though.
And then after the husband tells the wife that we're in excellent financial condition, a guy came to the house and repossessed the car, and they're knocking on the door with foreclosure notices.
Yeah. I thought that was a good one. Analogies, I think, work well in settings like that because, again, it's not all the policy wonks sitting there scoring. A lot of times it's people that are just maybe tuning in for the first time and they want to sort of get an overall feel of the candidates themselves. One of your strongest points last night, and you and I have talked about this before, the Marco Rees case, the fact that this guy should have been picked up, he should have been handed over to ICE. Instead, he's allowed to hold a job. He's allowed to go to a parking lot, carjack a woman at knife point, rape her repeatedly in Roger Williams Park. Now, you said that in your capacity as the superintendent of state police, you had a conversation with the police chief of Providence, Dean Esserman, and that he said on the issue of illegal immigration and criminal aliens in our midst, the mayor wants to go easy on this. You called it a multi-system failure.
Yeah, I obviously had many conversations with Chief Dean Esserman back then, and we agreed to disagree, but it was known publicly that I wanted the folks under my control and the state police to follow the rule of law. And let me just explain that if I have a minute, because we focused on people who were here illegally. They committed a crime. It's post arrest. So, they would follow up with a call to ICE and say that, we have arrested this person and they're here from whatever country and they're here illegally, and we just want to apprise you of that. And ICE might take that information and say, well, just document it, and that's okay. Arraign that person, we'll just document, because not everyone gets deported. So, and I never ever followed up on one of those calls and say, we arrested someone on such and such a date. I want to know what happened with them. I just want to make sure that the troopers did their job, and on my watch, we weren't going to have any Marco Reeses. So, in my conversations with Dean Esserman, he alluded to the fact that his mayor, is how he used to call my mayor, right, is not receptive to me going strong on these areas. That's basically told him that that's your business, Dean, but we are. So you're not going to control what the state police are doing. And he didn't try to. In fairness to him, he never tried to influence that. So the bottom line is Marco Rees should have been in prison and deported. And it's just a terrible situation, a horrible situation what happened to that woman. And she's a very, very nice woman, very nice.
Yeah, you said you've had some conversations.
Let me also add that in my conversation with her, she couldn't say enough good about the investigatory process in the Providence Police Department, the people who investigated that crime, and the work that they did, and how kind they treated her. So I just needed to add that. But the bottom line is, Marco Rees shouldn't have been on the street.
Yeah, the Providence Police can only do what they're allowed to do. I've had conversations with a couple cops that, of course, don't want their names out there, but they say it was a big joke that if they pulled somebody over and say, maybe the guy, no registration, no license, couldn't speak the language, and it was pretty obvious that this guy might have been in the country illegally, they would issue them a summons to appear in court. They used to jokingly call those run warrants because they said, we'll never see these guys again. Somebody else, an American citizen or a legal immigrant, would show up in court because they don't want, they don't want any problems. But, you give this to somebody who's not documented anyway, and they're not going to see him again. So it was pretty much understood in the city of Providence that, we're not going to bother to check.
Well, but Helen, even moreover, if you have someone who's arrested for a felony, oftentimes you'll find that the person is an illegal reentry.
Yeah.
And for your listeners, that means the person was arrested years before, tried and convicted and incarcerated and then deported, and then they're back again. This isn't once or twice a year. These happen often. And these police officers, especially in Providence and the state police, they have very, very difficult jobs to do. And they want to do the best that they can. Those people, illegal reentries and people who are here committing felonies, that should be reported to ICE. And then it's ICE's prerogative what they're going to do with that party. But at least they should have the information on hand, even through a personal phone call. And that's what a lot of these are, just personal phone calls. You can't fax it in and let the fax sheet fall on the floor and someone gets to look at it 2 days later after the arraignment.
Yeah, very good point. Colonel Brendan Doherty on comments on the debate last night. And you've got a big wad of cash going forward, Colonel Doherty, so spend it wisely.
I will. I've always been frugal. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and a good point there. Good to talk to you, Colonel Doherty. Thanks so much for being a guest.
Thanks, Helen.